Settle in. It's time for an incredible journey. The Wonderful World of Disney presents the award-winning film Coco, and it starts right now.
Hello, I'm Walt Disney. Thanks to some old-fashioned magic we call imagination, right now, we're leaving the world of today behind. So if your imagination is ready, here we go.
Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to the very first episode of the Happiest Cast on Earth for 2026. I'm your host, as always, Ryan Johnson. Joining me today, once again, is Ariana Mooney.
I don't like that she talked to me.
And we are actually going to be starting something very fun for the month of January. It is the first episode of a theme month called The Wonderful Month of Disney, where we, every week through the month of January, we are going to be looking at different episodes of the Walt Disney Anthology series. So, Ariana, I have to ask you this really stupid question that I feel like I already know the answer to. How familiar are you with the Disney Anthology series?
I don't think at all.
That's okay.
But I am a Disney adult.
That's not okay.
I'm not.
But it is okay that you're not as familiar with the Disney Anthology series, because that's what I'm here for. So, the Disney Anthology series began life in 1954, created by Walt Disney himself, simply as a way to fund Disneyland. He created this weekly anthology series for ABC, where every week it'd be somewhat related to what's going on at his company, whether it's like a behind-the-scenes featurette, some updates on Disneyland, original pieces of content, or just replaying one of his old cartoons or movies just trimmed down for television. It eventually went so long that it surpassed just being a promotion for Disneyland and just being a promotion for Disney in general, on top of also creating several different pieces of original content, and is still going on to this very day. It's had many different names over the years. It started as just Disneyland, but also names such as the Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color, or sometimes just Walt Disney. The most recent title is The Wonderful World of Disney, presented by Disney Plus. That's the full title it's going by now, because the majority of what it shows now is stuff on Disney Plus. And this past holiday season, it showed the year about a Santa Claus for some reason. Might have been Santa Claus is coming to town. It was one of the two. What I think is interesting the most about the Disney Anthology series is because the individual episodes are sometimes full-blown Disney classic movies, like what we're going to be talking about today. But also, sometimes they'd be able to license other movies from other studios, and it technically gets into this show's origins of wanting to talk about Disney stuff that's kind of weird and not really Disney. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. But it's also given birth to some classic pieces of Disney media, such as the Davy Crockett series and the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella adaptation, with Jason Alexander in it. So there's a lot of fun things to talk about with the Disney Anthology series. And today we're going to be looking at, technically, an episode from about season 71, I believe, in the more recent era, that being Coco. Now, I feel like I do know the answer to this question. How familiar are you with Coco?
I said I'm a Disney adult. Like, I'm not actually a Disney adult, but I am a freak for Disney movies. I love Disney movies. And I usually, I don't always watch every Disney movie that comes out here recently because I've just gotten really bad about watching TV. But when I do watch one that comes out and I like it, which I usually do, I will watch it like 5 times. So I've probably seen Coco 5 times, if not more.
I actually have a very fun story trying to see Coco in theaters. We were going to see it with my friend at the time, but even though it was only been in theaters for like a month, they stopped playing it. So we went to go see Ferdinand instead. Ferdinand wasn't bad, but God, would I have liked to see Coco more.
Yeah.
But I eventually did get to see it when they released it on DVD. And I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was one of the best films that Pixar had made in a while. Because, even today, whenever they make a good movie, they make a damn good movie. It was a really solid film, but I hadn't really revisited it as much as other Pixar films in the past, simply because, one, there's just been so much more Disney stuff released since then, and two, I'm kind of a busy guy, I don't want to brag or anything, but yeah, it's taken me a while to properly get around to rewatching Coco, and now that I'm doing an episode of my podcast for it, I have no excuse. So, Coco is a pretty good movie. I'm not gonna lie. Coco, it starts off and there's mariachi fiesta music playing "When You Wish Upon a Star." We like that. We like it when they do things with the logo that's actually fun and cool and not gimmicky like the live action remakes do. It was something I noticed a lot happening in the 2010s with Disney movies, where like every single film they'd alter the logo to the point where it became less common for them to just use the normal logo. Like, you notice that?
I like it though. At least when they do it like well. Like I like when they like make it personal to the movie.
Yeah,
A little bit of the movie.
like funny enough, I just saw like an Instagram reel of them doing the exact same thing, showcasing the various types of logos they had over the decades. But like, some ones that I can really think of that come to mind is like the flying saucer, like a duck in the logo, and the other one Stitch. The logo being in a snow globe for Santa Claus 3. Uh, weird different, weird different photos and Polaroids being used for prom. Remember that?
No, I don't know if I've seen that.
Neither have I, but I liked what they did with the logo.
No, I haven't seen that either.
I also probably my two favorites would be like Frankenweenie, where it starts off as just the normal Disney logo, but then it turns all black and white and horror-ish. And this is gonna sound really stupid, but Chippendale Rescue Rangers, because the castle keeps turning into castles from different Disney movies, and I just think that was really cute. So we get this neat little intro animated sequence about the backstory of this family and how the dude was a musician and left his entire family just to make music. And so we go by Footloose logic and ban music for the entire family. I always think that these types of stories are stupid. It was kind of dumb in Footloose, and it was really dumb in Little Mermaid, Ariel's beginning.
Um,
But I feel like out of all the types of movies to make that like have this type of plot line, this film kind of makes it make a little bit more sense.
I think it makes more sense because it's not just like, oh, no music ever for anyone. It's more like, okay, well, your great 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 grandpa was like pursued music. Like he was a musician and he was a bad person, threw his life away, right? Like we don't want you to pursue music and throw your life away. We want you to pursue something like quote unquote meaningful. And so it's like I don't think they would have hit him over the head for like listening to some tunes, but like when he starts to be like, I want to learn how to play guitar, it's like, no, we're cutting that off right now. Like I'm not saying they're right, but it is definitely better than like the Little Mermaid prequel.
Where like the only reason music is banned is because the queen was stupid and tried to save a music box when a ship was trying to kill her.
And that's like it wasn't even like she wasn't even doing anything music related. It had nothing to do with music. It was just that it was a gift from her husband.
Yeah.
Like,
But it plus like in Footloose, that was really just, oh, my son got drunk and died, so I'm going to ban dancing. Where's the parallel there? I want to know. But anyway, after the little intro, we get introduced to our main character in the film, Miguel, who's not named Coco because the movie hates you. The movie hates you and wants to piss you off.
I kind of zoned out for a second, and my brain was like, "You said the main character Miguel," and I was like, "What? No, his name is Coco." And I was,
No, like I I don't think I ever heard like the definitive reason for why the movie is called Coco and not like Miguel. Probably because like Coco, like Mama Coco is like the emotional centerpiece of the entire story. Because like the entire reason, and this is getting away further into the film, like the entire reason that Hector even wants to visit the land of the living is so he can see his daughter, and that's Coco. That's Coco, guys.
yeah, really. I mean, really, it's Coco's story, and we're following Miguel. You know, so it makes sense. I'm sure they probably got some other weird reason too that they just didn't talk about. Like I'm sure if you Google it, you're probably on it. But like, I like it makes sense to me. I think.
So Miguel, big shock, is a really big music fan and is especially a fan of this Ernesto guy, who, fun fact, is not the first time that Benjamin Bratt was specifically called in to play a Mexican animated movie villain, but is the first time he was originally meant to play the character. Because he played the bad guy in Despicable Me 2, but he ended up replacing Al Pacino at the 11th hour. It it's funny because like he replaced him so last minute that there were commercials for the film that advertised Al Pacino in the cast.
That's funny.
It's really funny. So yeah, but because Miguel is so secretive about his musical desires, he's never really performed in front of anybody. In fact, he was even beat over the head with a shoe for cleaning the shoes of a mariachi band member and like holding his guitar and shit like that. That's not fun, man. That ain't fun at all. And so at one point, he's like, I want to do this talent show. But then he realizes when the photo of his great great grandmother breaks, he discovers the guitar of his idol and puts the pieces together that he's his great great grandfather and he's destined to become a musician. So immediately we're just kind of left with like questions. Why had they never mentioned that before? That specifically, that's your great great grandfather. You don't want to be like him if he's such a famous musician.
Well, I mean, maybe they thought that that would like it's one thing to be like, yeah, your grandpa was a loser, like want to be musician, don't be like him. But it's harder to be like, no, don't follow that path when your grandpa was actually extremely successful. You know, like
But he abandoned his family, don't you know?
yeah, and it's like so it's like you have that, but then if you like keep the like identity secret, then it's like he abandoned his family and he was a loser wannabe musician. But it's like if otherwise it's like he abandoned his family, but he was like the most successful musician. Like so because you know, you're telling a little kid that he's probably gonna be like, all I'm hearing is successful musician. Like
So Miguel abandons his family to become a musician and perform at the talent show, but his abuela breaks his guitar and he can't find the guitar. And so he breaks into the memorial of the dead musician that he idolizes and steals the guitar. Which, can we just talk about the way Ernesto died? Just the way this man died is just the stupidest, like, cartoony way a person could die. Like, this freaking stagehand was just so entranced by this guy's angelic voice that he leans on the pole, lowers the bell, and it kills. That's actually pretty metal. I'm not gonna lie. I guess at this point, it's appropriate for us to talk about the song "Remember Me," the film that the song that got this film an Oscar nomination and a win. And I can definitely see why. It's a really really good song.
I personally like uh where you like put the shoes on my head, me more, me more. That one's fun.
Yeah, the songs in general in this film are very great. They were written by the Lopez's, who famously wrote the songs for the Frozen films as well, but also wrote all the songs for WandaVision, Winnie the Pooh, and before Disney, Robert Lopez wrote the songs for Avenue Q and the Book of Mormon. So they're very talented songwriters in their own right, and this is definitely. I feel like the songs from Coco probably get a little bit overlooked in their musical repertoire. I mean, when you write "Let It Go," pretty much everything else you do before or afterwards is gonna get overshadowed. But it's still a really great song. They're still really great songs, especially "Remember Me." I think the reason I like "Remember Me" so much is probably because of how versatile the song is. Because at the beginning of the movie, we see this as this grand, big musical spectacle with tons of dancers and flashy lights and elaborate sets. But towards the end of the movie, we see how it was meant to be, and it's just this soft, quiet, like 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 little intimate moment between Hector and Coco, and it's mirrored like again later on, where it's the same moment with Coco and Miguel, and it's really beautiful and just shows you how versatile the song can be, and ultimately why it ended up winning that Oscar, and definitely deserves it more over Evermore from the Beauty and the Beast remake.
Yeah, any remake is go away. I don't want that.
Yeah,
I'm so tired of the live actions. Make literally anything else, please.
it's only a matter of time before we get remakes of Pixar movies, and with the songs in this soundtrack, wouldn't be surprised if Coco would be a contender. Because keep in mind, this year we're getting a Moana remake, not even 10 years after the first movie.
I feel like Moana is like such like a new movie still, and they're already making a remake of it of any
It
kind.
it is like it's
Not that hard to like picture a Pacific Islander. Like I don't need you to show me a real one. Like I get the vision. You know, like
the kids that watched Moana in theaters, most of them are still children. You don't need to reintroduce it to them.
and
It's
like, I feel like the big reason the live action started was because a lot of these older movies were still like they were very 2D. So even if I still feel like it was unnecessary, it's like it's the difference between a very flat 2D animation style and like a very realistic version like the Lion King,
yeah.
and like again, even though I think the remake of the Lion King was pretty, but I still am like I don't think it was necessary, but I can understand why they would have made it. Whereas like Moana, they just made Moana, and it's the newer animation style where it's still definitely stylized and like anime and like cartoon style, but it's the more like round 3D ish, like not as far off of people as like in the 90s or sooner, like so it's like it just feels like you have even less of a reason now
You're
to
taking a you're taking a 3D model and turning it into a 3D model, basically.
exactly
There's not that big of a media transfer.
no.
Speaking of movies that are remotely similar to other films, bringing it back to Coco a little bit, I feel like we wouldn't be doing our jobs here and discussing the film if we don't bring up a similar animated film that came out prior to this, that being The Book of Life. released in 2014 from 20th Century Fox, oddly enough.
Fun fact, Gunnar Sizemore was in that movie.
Oh yeah, Gunnar Sizemore from a little film that Ari and I are working on. Well, worked on. I'm done with it, but yeah, The Book of Life. It premiered around November of 2014, and it too is a computer animated film about Day of the Dead. And to be fair, to be completely honest, I have not seen The Book of Life. It looks like a really good movie.
I'm
It
pretty sure I watched it like once. And I think I've wanted to watch it again, and I just never have. But it seems like one that I really want to rewatch. But I think I've watched it at least once.
Were there any similarities, like striking similarities to Coco?
Um, not not that I can think of really, because Coco focuses a lot more on like being in. Well, I don't know. Like, I guess it's kind of similar. They feel very different. Like, it feels a lot more, like, as silly as this might sound, like realistic, I guess, because like, yeah, you're going into this crazy, colorful like afterlife, but it's just like you cross the bridge into afterlife, and these are the ghosts, like the spirits of the people of the world. And maybe it's because you're following like this human boy. But if I remember correctly, the Book of Life is a lot more like, okay, you have like this um uh the main character, I believe, becomes even like a skeleton, which isn't like a huge deal, but it's like, it visually, it kind of puts your brain in that different place, I think. And it, like, you follow a little more into like a different world of afterlife with a little more of like creature and like mythological aspects than in Coco.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the only real similarities between the two movies is that they're computer animated movies about Day of the Dead, where a living person gets transported to the world of the dead. That's pretty much it. And I feel like it's because Day of the Dead is not really a holiday that's adapted to film very much, naturally some comparisons would be made. But
Yeah.
to be honest, it's kind of like saying that Arthur Christmas is a ripoff of the Polar Express for being computer animated Christmas movies. There's not, that's pretty much the only similarity.
Actually, yeah, especially because, again, if I'm not mistaken, so it's been a long time, he is literally a musician. So it's like it's kind of opposite there. Like, I guess maybe there is the similarity. They are still talking about music and still like thought like music is still a big aspect in the movie, but it's still different of like you're following one, a grown man who is a musician versus a little boy who was raised against music, even if he wants to be a musician. Also, I think that um, if I want to say that the Book of Life was like way like set in a relatively distant past,
Yeah, while Coco is more set, like
modern.
modern times, yeah. So Miguel breaks into the mausoleum, takes takes the guitar, strings it, and suddenly he could walk through the walls and the people. Actually, he can just walk through the people. He has become one. He has suddenly been transformed. He has suddenly been transported into the world of the dead. Noted on the fact that nobody can see him except for the stray dog he's been hanging around, Dante, and the fact that the people who do see him are living skeletons. And they just so happen to be his old family, his deceased family that he's never met before. And one immediate thing that I noticed, like as soon as we're transported into the world of the dead, is the striking amount of children that we have seen. Like, there's a lot of dead kids in this family Disney movie.
Surviving as a child in the olden days is one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
Just like the death, the life expectancy of older generations was not much lower than it is now. The numbers are just extremely skewed when taken on an average because so many babies and kids died.
Or maybe all the kids are just school shooter victims. Who knows?
That is possible. I don't know that that's as big of a problem in Mexico as it is here, but maybe Disney was just a little biased. Maybe they were just like, well, they've probably got them too.
So, anyways, once they're immediately transported to the world of the dead, it's freaking beautiful. Everything's all nice and colorful and pretty. And we see the little TSA system on how people get transported to the world of the living. And that's where we meet Hector for the first time. And basically, we also see that Miguel's great great grandmother is unable to cross over because of how he knocked over her photo. That's Day of the Dead rules. And so all that Miguel needs, we find out, is just a blessing from one of his dead families to go back. Because we figure out that like the reason he's in there is because he stole from the dead. That's which by that logic, we figure out later in the movie that this Ernesto stole Hector's music after he died. He technically stole from the dead, so didn't he at some point get trapped in the world of the dead? And if so, then he clearly broke the laws. So Miguel gets the blessing from his family with the one exception that he will never play music again. So obviously, once he gets back to the world of the living, he grabs the guitar and gets only to make his way back to the world of the dead. However, thinking that his great great grandfather is still a beautiful musician, he abandons his family and tries to get to him because if he is still there by midnight, he will be stuck in the world of the dead forever. In fact, he is slowly, gradually turning into a skeleton, which is metal as hell if you ask me. So it's also around this point where Miguel properly meets Hector, who we talked about before. I freaking love Hector at this point, man. I think why I love him so much is because like he's kind of initially presented as more of like the comic relief of the film, but as the film goes on, you learn more and more about him and that he's much more of a complex character than we are initially led to believe.
It makes it a lot nicer of a, I don't want to say like a flip, because it's not just like a sudden like, oh, but it is, definitely a change. Like nicer than just like finding him in the end and he is your grandpa. Or like even if you find him in the beginning and you spend the whole movie with him still and he's like this really kind, like just grandpa-ish figure, and at the end you find out, oh, he's actually my grandpa-ish figure. It's nice to have that contrast and like that development of this is some weird crazy guy.
Yeah,
and like you're like, well, he's kind of a nice weird crazy guy, and then it's like, oh wait, he's actually my freaking grandpa and he's got some crazy lore.
yeah, like they begin as like a typical like Pixar duo. The best way to describe it, like the two people that aren't really the closest that are forced to work together. That's pretty much what Pixar has been thriving at since the beginning. In fact, even the most recent film Elio has a classic example of a Pixar duo. Although then again in Elio they get friendlier way earlier than the typical Pixar duo does, but nevertheless, it's still a Pixar duo.
I totally forgot. I forgot it came out.
Yeah, not a lot of people went to see it. Lilo and Stitch made more money.
Go figure.
That's a different Disney movie.
Freaking live actions. I,
So so Miguel and Hector agree to work together. Basically, Hector is going to try and get his blessing from Singer, while Miguel is going to put Hector's photo up once he get back to the land of the living. And in order to not draw any suspicion, Miguel puts on whiteface.
that is the thing that happens.
Yes. Although I guess since he's meant to resemble a skeleton, it's black and whiteface.
Every face, all face.
It's at this point in the film where they get the wonderful idea to compete in this competition where you get to meet Ernesto. They devise a plan. They devise a plan, a goddamn plan, if you will, if you're in the Tremors movies. And they miraculously are able to compete, and Miguel performs, goes off really, really well, except when it doesn't because he's never performed before. But the kid's a natural. He's a natural born musician. One could say it's in his blood, his familiar tides. That is until his familiar shows up and tries to take him away. But then that's when we get the goal fashion lion reveal. Because at this point, Miguel has been like, hey, Ernesto's my only family here. And then Hector just saw a whole bunch of family. Well, technically, Hector didn't see the family. He just heard that Miguel was running away from his family, or else Hector would have recognized the family. Very clever movie, very clever. It actually thought some of this stuff out, which we'll get to in a second. But that's one of the things I really appreciate about this film compared to like other Disney movies, and how it actually thought out its twists and didn't just pull them out of thin air because they had no idea where else to take the story. Because like not long after that, like makes it Miguel to get the favor from the people who actually won the competition so that they can take him to the party. And he performs in front of Ernesto. Ernesto finds out that he's his great great grandson, and they hit it off. But then Hector shows up and is like, "Hey man, you took everything from me. Give me the kid back. He's going home." And it's at this point where we find out that in life, Hector and Ernesto knew each other. They wrote music together. Like Hector was his ghostwriter, and Hector wanted to go back home to live with his family. Ernesto kills him, and he's also not Miguel's great great grandfather. I feel like this is probably the best example of a twist villain that has ever been done in a Disney film, because it's clearly not something that comes out of left field, that comes out of nowhere. This is something that has been built up throughout the entire film, especially, and it's something you notice on repeat viewings. In particular, stuff that I started to notice were during his interviews, where Ernesto was like, "You got to do whatever you can to get to the top." And specifically the twist with Hector, it's noticeable because up until after the point of the twist, we never get to see a moment where like Hector recognizes or like acknowledges a member of his family.
Yeah, like it is. Like I said, it is a really good and really well built plot twist.
Yeah.
It almost like it doesn't feel like you're getting like this, oh, plot twist, didn't see that coming. It's more of like relief, like comforting, if that makes sense. It's like you're building up not just so they can like flip you around and show you something else. You're building up so that like you feel more of like through Miguel of like I this answer that I've been looking for, I finally find it.
Yeah.
Like, and not only has it been in front of me the whole time, but it's like totally different than what I thought it was, which like surface level seems like a pretty generic like Disney trope. But again, it was done so well that it's just different. You know, it feels different.
It's definitely a lot better compared to a lot of the other Disney movies that were doing this around the exact same time. Like this was just a year after Zootopia with freaking Bellwether, where she had just the scene to be evil, and it was clearly not built up at all. And before then, I would have said the best one was with King Candy because it wasn't really a twist. He was always a sinister guy. The actual twist was who he was.
Yeah,
But
that was a good one too.
yeah, it's kind of like Hans kind of gets better with his twist. Like the more I think about it, but like there's still parts that don't work, like him smiling like gently when nobody is looking at him. It's just some parts of it doesn't add up, like wanting to save Elsa's life earlier instead of just letting her die. But
It does feel like again, I think that one reason it's so much better is that it's like in all these other things, the twist is like it's almost like a surprise attack, right? It is like oh, here is actually you've been deceived. Here's a new conflict for you. So it's like deception leading to conflict. Whereas like in Coco, it's like um rather than deception as like a negative connotation, it's more of like just misunderstanding leading to resolution. Because it's not I get which like you kind of get both right because there is the uh conflict of he's not actually my grandpa, he's a bad guy, but that's not like the focus is on the more heartwarming moment of oh, you're my grandpa and I've been able to like spend this time with you and build this relationship with you.
so going back into the film a little bit, let's talk about the final death. That's probably one of the most gut punching moments I've ever seen in a film, specifically one made for families. So early in the movie, Miguel and Hector have to find a guitar, and Hector knows the guy, and he goes to this like part of town that features people that have mostly been forgotten about because nobody ever puts up their photos for Day of the Dead, and they really have no families. And Hector meets with this guy who is on his last leg, like he's almost been forgotten about. Hector plays a song for him as his request, and he fades away into nothingness, the final death. Because while the people in the world of the dead, like they're dead, but they're still living to an extent. Like they are in their afterlife and they're having a grand old time. They get to see their living relatives every year. They're with their friends, they're with their family, they're having a good old time. Final death, there's just like nothing. And the only way to get there is when everybody forgets about you. That is some crazy stuff to put in a family film. Like I had to pause the movie and walk away for a little bit. It got kind of deep. This movie had me thinking.
Yeah, I think I like it because and which I think first time watching it, I probably didn't like think about it all that hard, but like looking back on it, it's kind of similar to like my personal beliefs, and so like it makes sense um to me. Kind of like the way I see it, I think that like ghosts make sense to me because you know everybody has energy. You know, everyone's like life is energy, right? Like movement is energy. And so it's like you die if your body stops, then it's like, where is all that energy going? And so I like that would make sense to me to be a ghost. And then, I'm not saying that, in real life this is how it would work or what, the logic on that would be, but it would make sense to me also. Like I can see the ties there of like, okay, so now you're a ghost, but eventually if nobody remembers you, if nobody that has ever met you and contributed to your life can remember who you are anymore, isn't around anymore, then I can like that like makes sense in my brain, like tying that, like being okay, well then your energy is depleting. It's going away. Almost like the energy of other people that have met you are like contributing to your afterlife. So I don't, man, then maybe it's just a personal thing for me because that's how I've always kind of felt. But I like it. I think it's interesting. It also kind of makes me think of The Good Place.
Good Place. I've never seen The Good Place.
You've not seen The Good Place? It's really good. It's basically like, at the end they finally get everything sorted out. They fix the hell system, they fix the heaven system, everything is figured out. But now they have another problem where it's like, okay, I'm bored in heaven. Everything's perfect, but it's so perfect that I'm bored. And so now even my afterlife of paradise is hell. And
that reminds me of this Twilight Zone episode where the guy like thinks he's in heaven because he keeps winning everything, but he's actually in hell because he keeps winning everything.
that's how The Good Place starts. It's like it's a new version of hell that they're like test running with a few different people, where the hell is that they make you think you're in heaven, but all these people know that they shouldn't be in heaven because they were bad people and because these like aren't their actual identities.
They were terrible people, like
And then
spider stands.
it gets revealed that they are actually in hell, that it was intentional. And then they go through all that, and eventually they get to the point where they get to heaven. And like I said, like they're like, okay, well, heaven isn't perfect either because everybody here is miserable. And so what they do is they kind of reference it in the show before, but mostly talking about for angels and demons that the only way to kill them is kind of just like to send them to the void, like so then you're like obliterated into nothingness, like for good, forever, for real this time, like the final death. And so if a demon isn't doing his job right in hell, then we're gonna put you there. And like that's like that's scary because that's how they can actually die. But they're like, okay, well, what if we put that as an option in heaven? So it's like people have been in heaven for thousands of years and they're like, I'm just freaking sick of it up here. Like I think my time is done. Then they can walk through this door and they're just done. And I don't know, like it's kind of opposite because like, in Coco, like it's something that they don't want. Whereas in The Good Place, like it's something that's supposed to like bring them like control and autonomy and closure, and peace. But still the concept is similar.
Because like I think with Coco in particular, like with the final death, it does kind of tap into like a lot of people's like greatest fears in life. Because like a lot of people, they're like, I'm not really afraid of death, but like because like personally, like one of my greatest fears is being forgotten. That like one day I'm gonna die, and everything that I've accomplished meant nothing because
Yeah.
nobody remembers Thomas and Friends Abridged. So what am I gonna do?
They might remember it, but it won't be. You won't be in heaven getting remembered.
Thomas and Friends Bridge is a great show. You guys should check it out if you haven't already. Miguel and Hector get rescued by Miguel's family. Things get patched up. Dante is revealed to be a little spirit animal alongside this giant tiger with wings, which is objectively awesome. I don't care who you are, that's cool.
Especially because they're also all rainbow.
all like the neon and shit is really cool. And they realize that Ernesto still has the photo of Hector. So they need to get Hector's photo so that Miguel can put it up so that Hector doesn't get forgotten. Because apparently, after being dead for decades, he never thought to try to explain what actually happened to his family. Oh well, it's not like the ones that are alive are gonna know. They go to this concert, shenanigans happen, more singing happens, more musical numbers, and then Ernesto almost murders a child, but one of the family members puts the cameras on, and I guess those cameras weren't being used, and the whole crowd sees this happening, and everybody turns on him
I
instantly.
that kind of like, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not vengeance. It's like almost like it's like justice, but it's a different word. I can't think of it. But anyways, where like they do something to where now like everybody gets to see like authentically that that person is like bad. It's always like, yes, finally, bro. Like,
I don't know. Like I understand because like it's a movies, but you know, you and I both know that in the real world, nobody is ever going to like. Not everybody is going to turn on a celebrity just like that.
yeah, but it's a lot more likely if you're seeing live footage of it happening. And I think that's one reason why, because it's like finally you can't just make stuff up and cover your butt, like it's like they're seeing you do it. And so I can suspend disbelief enough. Whereas like if Miguel had just like gone on stage and been like, he's actually an evil fraud, then everyone like just turned on him immediately, yeah, then I'd be like, okay, buddy. But
See, I get where you're coming from, but then again, we do have like examples of like Amy Schumer admitting that she had sex with an unconscious man, and she still has a career.
okay, but also career and fan base are different because career people in charge are already evil. They don't care.
Yeah.
Talking about Ernesto's manager. We're talking about Ernesto's fans and audience. So
Ernesto, if he was alive, he'd probably have a great home on Daily Wire's music platform if that exists.
he would I'm not gonna say that. Anyways,
They, no, Daily Wire would probably call ICE on him or something like that. I don't know.
that is possible.
So during the fight, they actually lose the photo, which sucks because I'm pretty sure that's like the only photo of him in existence. And so he's very close to being forgotten about because Mama Coco is old, like really, really old, and she's losing memories like fast. So once Ernesto is defeated, ironically being crushed by a bell, Miguel's family sits him down. They all give him his blessing of like zero restrictions. Once he's back to the land of living, he rushes home, grabs the guitar, and he instantly starts trying to remind Coco of his papa. This is it, chat. This is it. This is the waterworks scene. This was the scene that everybody cried at. The scene where they're both the scene where Miguel starts playing Remember Me in the style that her father played to her, and then she just starts singing along, and she says like the first like tangible thought she's ever said in the entire movie, and just starts reminiscing about her dad. Now I will admit it is a very beautiful scene, very emotional. I understand why a lot of people get very teary eyed at it. If I were to be a nitpicky douchebag for just 1 second, Remember Me is a very famous song. Did Coco not recognize Remember Me as being like the little lullaby that her dad would sing to her whenever he would leave?
Or do you mean like when she was younger and coherent, like to like
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Maybe I think there's like two different things here, like two different possibilities. One could be like, well, again, where it was like older and there wasn't, I don't think they were in the time of like radio yet. And so like maybe in Coco's younger years, like she just did not really have a way of hearing the music. Um, and even if there was radio, then I mean her mom was very strict, no music, So like Coco herself would have had to have been like rebellious and like gone out and find a way to listen to it. And even then, like that's not saying that her mom gave her any kind of context, you know.
True.
I said there's two different possibilities. There's a lot of different possibilities. It could also be that, maybe she was really young. Maybe she didn't remember then, especially because, I mean, the style was different. So maybe she didn't like really think about it. Maybe it sounded familiar if she ever heard it. But then maybe being old and decrepit and her seeing a little boy that maybe looks like, a young uh Hector coming up to her and singing in her sensitive moments in the same way that her dad could have finally like unlocked that repressed memory.
Probably. Yeah, it is possible that like she maybe have been trying to like repress everything about her father because like of all the stuff that her mother told her.
Yeah.
But which is kind of possible for why she didn't recognize Remember Me if she did hear it, because I feel like she did hear it regardless because like you and I both know that it is impossible to escape a very popular song.
That is true, but we also have not lived in a time where we live in a time where music is extremely accessible.
Mm,
And she also, lives in like lived in what seemed like small village Mexico, so it's also like it's not like she was going out regularly to places that had like hundreds of people. Like, it's not like if she was interacting, I'm sure she was interacting with people every day, but like,
yeah,
I'm sure,
her developmental years were like in the small little Mexican town in the 1920s or 30s, so she's not really gonna
yeah, it's
know
not,
what's going on.
yeah. So there's just a lot of factors that I think would don't make it super hard to believe that she either never heard the song or didn't hear it very often. So it's like, and then again, if she only heard it like kind of offhand somewhere, then, because especially then too, like, I doubt she would have ever like gone to an Ernesto concert, right? And so again, Ernesto's version is different in itself. And so if she did hear it, it probably would have been like somebody else singing it. And then at that point, it's gone through two separate like changes between Ernesto's version and this person's like version of it. So maybe they don't remember the exact tune or all the words, and their voice is different. And so I think that's enough. It's definitely enough, at least for me, to be like, I can see where that wouldn't unlock that childhood memory for her, you know? So,
So the movie ends. We cut forward to a year later. Coco dies because she's old.
hold a hill.
She's older than the first Christmas. She dies, and Miguel is introducing his new little sibling, little baby. I forgot what gender the kid was because I watched this days ago, and showing the kid the family, and it's the new Day of the Dead, and we cut back to the Day of the Dead, the world of the dead, and Hector's finally able to cross because they put the photo back up, and they remember him, and he's reunited with his wife he's reunited with his daughter, and it's beautiful. Ernesto is exposed as the murderer he is, and Hector is starting to get the credit for writing all of Ernesto's songs. And they all join hands and sing, and they have a wonderful Day of the Dead. And apparently, Miguel's sister, who we didn't mention at all before, now could play the fiddle. Maybe she learned lessons in between the time gap or something like that, or maybe, much like Miguel, she also had a secret passion for playing the fiddle. But it's beautiful, you know. The giant tiger with cats turns the giant tiger with wings turns into a cat. It's really cute, and the movie ends beautifully. But that's actually not technically where the movie itself ends. Did you watch all the way to the credits?
Maybe I usually do. I can't remember if I have for Coco.
Well, the movie actually ends, like the final shot of the entire film, like after the credits, is a big collage of deceased, like family members, friends, and pets from the crew, and with text saying, "To the people who inspired us," which I think is actually a very beautiful way to end this film, to pay
Yeah.
tribute to everybody. Yeah, that is Coco. Final verdict, Ariana, from a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being a big ol' steaming Pooh Bear, 5 being the grand spanking castle, how would you rate Coco?
Honestly, I would give it a solid 5. I'm saying it's not like my favorite movie ever. I'm not saying that it's like the best thing in the world, but there's nothing about it that I think I would change. Like I think that it's a really solid and enjoyable movie, and I don't really have any gripes with it. So I think that like in my mind, there's no reason to give it less than a 5. Yeah.
I would have to agree with you, although personally I would give him more of a 4.5, simply because yeah, there are some more nitpicky elements that I have with the movie. Plus, I do think that there are some other Pixar movies that are better. So, but
I get
still a great film overall.
yeah.
So anyway, guys, that will be it for this week's episode of the Happiest Cast on Earth. Ariana, thank you so much for coming on to the show once again. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Uh no, I'm hardly on social media anyways. But
She doesn't even want to plug this movie she's doing or anything like that.
gosh, it feels like wrong to like talk about it, even though they have like articles and stuff posted. It feels like it should be great. Yeah, I guess so. They changed the name of it. I don't know if you saw that. The official name change is now Disconnected. Being in Princeton, and it actually seems like it'll be pretty. It's an indie film, obviously, but it's a pretty good movie, and the cast is really great. The crew is really great. It's it's a good time. Me and Ryan are both in it. Not really, like we're extras, but like
Like,
I'm as well. But we will, our faces are in there somewhere. When it comes,
you just have to look for us.
um,
Shout out to my friend Rebecca New, who actually is like a featured actor in the film. So,
like one of the characters,
yeah,
Rebecca, is very nice.
yeah.
She's doing great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't know. Is she? So she's from Beckley. You've worked with her before.
Oh, yeah, this is getting a little personal. We've been doing shows together since grade school.
Okay.
We go
Yeah,
that far back.
yeah. I knew that she was more local, but I was not 100% sure what her story was. So that's cool. That's cool to know.
Mhm.
So awesome.
Yeah, yeah, definitely check out Disconnected whenever it comes out. We don't know yet, but please do so. And also, please be sure to follow this show on YouTube and Spotify. I just put out some Christmas episodes of Tom the French Abridged over on Weird TV. It's not Christmas anymore, but you can still watch those.
Stay away. Run away.
And please be sure to tune in next week on the Happiest Cast on Earth for the wonderful month of Disney, where we will be taking a look at a non-Disney movie that aired as an episode of the anthology series. So I'm counting it. The 2006 DreamWorks animation film Over the Hedge. But until then, I will see you later. Bye!
Oh.